Our guest today is Peter Ashby Smith, who works at the intersection of decision making and emerging technology through a lens he calls Stoic Futurism. We discuss why many tech investments fail, what leaders should never outsource to AI, and how to make better decisions in an uncertain, fast moving world. Hello, Peter.
Welcome, Peter.
Good day. Happy to be here.
Yeah, good. So, Peter, can you tell us what is Stoic Futurism?
It's basically a combination of two terms that I just smushed together because they wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel. It was more of a process of taking two things that I see as very necessary in the world we're living in and trying to homogenize and combine them. So Stoicism is been around for thousands of years. It predates the New Testament, and yeah, very much is kind of stemming from Greek thought. And the main tenet is about only being able to control what you can control, and just accepting what you can't control. That's there's a whole bunch of other virtues attached to it, but from practical terms, that's what it is, about you and your influence, and it's the serenity prayer, right? Allow me to accept what I can't control and to control what I can. Yes. That kind of idea. And futurism is just about the future and just seeing the way we're going, particularly with the advent of AI post-COVID, and just seeing a glimpse of what's in store for us with this essentially new industrial revolution that we're going through, and how we're quite ill-equipped to deal with it. And so, from that need, kind of took these two terms, which I separately enjoyed, and kind of try to combine them to make sense of the world and help people to navigate this change by controlling what they can control, and understanding that AI and whatever might be a thing, but they still have a unique role to play in work and life.
And why do you think, so do you think Stoicism would benefit most people? And if so, why?
Yeah, I mean, Seneca famously said that there's that we often suffer more in our imagination than in reality, which is true, right? It's not truth or reality that does us the most harm. It's how we think about it. It's our perspective on those things, or how we interpret those things. And so, yeah, in my life, that's certainly true. I don't know about you guys. You guys might be more bulletproof than I am. But yeah, I'm prone to overthink things, to misinterpret things, to create more anxiety around situations. We look at the war in Iran right now. People are experiencing extreme anxiety around that. Some of those effects are real. Some of them are imagined. And all you can really do is try and get more clarity around those things from a Stoic perspective, so you can make right judgments and right decisions about what you can actually do in life. I mean, and what you might be able to actually do is just, conserve fuel and, knuckle down and do what you can and get on with your life as best you can, if it's a situation like that you can't control, right?
I can certainly relate to that.
Yeah,
sorry. I can certainly relate to overthinking, Peter. And I just wanted to jump in, and I'm just curious. So Stoicism is something that you have actually practiced in your life since, I guess, you mentioned you've got a family. Was this a gateway into Stoicism for you, or were you a Stoic prior to that as well?
I don't think I really, as a young man who was more than a little foolish, misspent youth. So I have enough degrees to be a pretty accurate thermometer, I often say. And that's a misspent youth. A lot of that stuff didn't really land for me in the past, but I have studied ancient history quite a bit, and philosophy too. It's very much only really emerged post-fatherhood as something that I need to be more serious about. Before then, it was just like interesting ideas. And so, yeah, I did all this misspent youth legwork in the past, and now it's kind of come home to roost in the last 3 or so years. So really, the Stoic and the Futurism has kind of come together at the same time. So very much that there's two things that the world most needs, and that is a positive, constructive approach to technology and a way of dealing psychologically with the changing pace of work.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So you would say, would you say that Stoicism is more helps people mentally, like to not run off, with the fairies or to get too worried and anxious, like you mentioned? It's a way of grounding yourself. It's a bit of a psychological benefit there as well, I would think.
Yeah, you control what you judge and what you influence. You don't control events. So something, one that's probably closer to home is something happens at work, right? Someone else gets that promotion. Can you control that someone else got that promotion? No, you can't at all. What you can control is how you deal with that, the feedback you seek, the skills you acquire, the capabilities. But I can share that in the past, when I didn't get that promotion, I was gutted, and it just ruined me for a week. Because it just replay it over and over in my head. I'd go through the whole stages of grief. I'd be upset, and then I'd be angry at the organization or myself. And yeah, it's all very unnecessary, very human, but you do have sovereignty over yourself and what you can do. And so through embracing some Stoic practices, some frameworks I've developed myself, you can overcome these issues. You can learn to understand that your emotions don't rule you, or your passions don't rule you, but that you rule you.
I find it really interesting that you mentioned you've found Stoicism after you've had children. I find that's really the case. I mean, we have 2 children ourselves, but I don't think children necessarily alone are quite often the catalyst for us to seek ancient wisdom or some kind of inner peace. But certainly challenges that come across our lives almost force us to take a look internally about how we operate ourselves, how we could work differently. How have these Stoic principles kind of helped you to self-reflect?
Yeah, because children are chaos incarnate, right? The Stoics did not believe that they were tabula rasa, that they were blank slates. And every parent knows that, because every child is strange and different and wonderful and all the above at the same time sometimes. And so meeting that chaos and realizing how selfish I am as well, by the way. Parenthood teaches you how selfish you are, because all of a sudden you've got to care about other people, right? Who can't often care for themselves. Just realized how important it is to rein in chaos, both chaos in my life, which is a huge byproduct of it, but also to figure out how to train children who are completely untrained and are just fumbling their way through life to make wise decisions. And so I incorporate a lot of this stuff into how I talk to my children, right? So, my son the other day kind of came in, it's school holidays right now, right? Yeah. And he kind of came in upset that some kid had done something to him in the neighborhood. My instant reaction as a dad was, you tell me who that kid is, right? But I used it as a teaching moment for my child to say, like, look, yes, little Johnny, said something to you that you didn't like, but can you control little Johnny? No, you can't control. I'm getting them to to act it out for me, and to realize that yes, they're upset that something bad was said to them, but ultimately they can't control someone else's tongue. But what they can control is how they react to it, and almost instantly the child just calms down, realizes, oh yeah, I'm choosing to get upset about this, and it's not necessarily wrong to get upset about it, but his upsetness shouldn't dictate how he reacts to it. He should be responding rather than reacting to how that all happens, and that changes the dynamics immediately.
I love that reflection, Peter, because quite frequently I think about how I respond to challenging moments. In this particular case, we're talking about kids, but but this could apply to any, I guess, setting. But When I think about my own upbringing, if I had some good news or bad news, there would always be quite a lot of emotional reactions had in that moment, which would then, as a kid, also then get you to go, well, hang on, should I be even talking about this sort of stuff, or should I be packaging that information differently? So I really love the reflection there about having a sense of calm and peace, and having kids also reflect back upon their own actions. Is this something that you carry through to the workplace and your other relationships?
Yeah. So whereas fatherhood was very much a catalyst for bringing this stuff to the fore, I found a lot of the benefit is in my work practices. Yes, how I deal with my wife, although I kind of incorporate her into the family dynamics there as well. But in terms of the workplace, it's been quite stark, where with all these technological innovations, I've just seen so many opportunities to not have to do boring work anymore. And I find it quite surprising how many of my staff members don't share that opinion. I cannot think of a more boring thing to do than sit there and process emails or press buttons or whatever it is that, boring work that we really shouldn't be doing, that we're not made for as human beings. And try and automate what I can that's boring and unnecessary in order to free up time to do other things. And I just, my efficiency over the last few years has just skyrocketed, because I've been trying to use the tools to get rid of those tedious parts of work, or at least the things that are automatable, and use more creativity, use more judgment, and enjoy life more. And that's why I'm able to do amazing projects like the Stoic Futurist newsletter, and a lot of edtech startup mentoring and things like that, which I really enjoy doing. But I wouldn't have had time for a few years ago, just because I'd be sitting there typing emails, having meaningless meetings, things like that we don't have to do as much of anymore, because the dynamics have changed. The tools are there to not have to do these things.
And, I love how Stoicism can be applied in all these different aspects, like you said, work and stuff. But even going back to the family thing, usually I think we can be dictated by other people's moods, emotions. We can feel it, whether it's your kids or, like you said, your wife, husband, like they can influence how you behave. So it is quite freeing to think, yes, we can't change other people, control other people and how we want them to be, but we can control our reaction to things, or how we want to act with that information. So it's not just advice for kids, it's actually a great tool to use, or philosophy to use with ourselves and with adults.
100%. A huge principle of change management for leaders is to model the way. You want to show those you're trying to help go through a transformation or a change process that there is a way forward, that their leaders are doing it too. They're leading from the front, and so that's essentially what you're doing in life. You're a leader, whether you're managing people or not, and you're showing people how best to deal with problems. That's what I find that quite refreshing. Like in an age where politicians are slime balls, who don't get respected, and we kind of almost dream of bygone eras of Wilberforce type characters arising, people of conscience, right? And we see that and we go, wow, it's so different to our era. The way to get back to that and have people of conscience and people of right judgment, upstanding people, right, is to take these ideas and model them to other people. They'll see the virtue of that and hopefully act accordingly. And train our children, of course, as well.
I think you're right. I think virtue is a real big angle that is being sought after, I think, in this modern chaotic world. What are some of your challenges? I mean, like with anything, virtue requires honesty, truth, integrity. What are some of the challenges you might come across where that might not always be easy?
I recently finished reading 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, and it's kind of like a modern Machiavelli book. Not as Machiavellian as Machiavelli, of course, but it really talks about power dynamics and how to understand people. It also talks about how to manipulate people. But I think that's part of the thing, is awareness is part of the challenge. So understand people, but you don't have to go and become a manipulator of people, right? Because we're not interested in that. That's not virtuous behavior. I'm interested in what I can do and what I can contribute and the impact I can make. And so, yeah, understanding what people are trying to do in the room so I can adapt to it and overcome that and understand it is really important. It's a dog eat dog world, right? Everyone's trying to get something, often for nothing, and win. Whether they're being lazy about it or whether they're being proactive about it, that's ultimately what people are trying to do. They're trying to achieve the most for the least amount of effort and input. And yeah, I think understanding that's what I'm doing too, right? But I'm drawing the line on how I go about doing that. That I want to see society more knit together. I want to see more positive impact and less negative. Even people with noble goals often go about it in a insidious way. A lot of what happens in society around climate change, for instance. I think it's a noble goal to want to not have as much carbon floating around, but a lot of what gets done around that politically is quite backstabby and insidious. Yeah. And so you kind of undermine your virtue and ultimately your goal if you're going to go about it in a way that tears people apart rather than bringing people together.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Like, it's true though as well. Like, we try to basically understand people and read people, but we can go about it in an insidious way without, if we don't fully. Yeah. Anyway, like I lost my train of thought while you were talking, but I do want to know, what sort of tools do you think you need to use in order to read people, like you said, and then therefore react to them in the way that you were just speaking about?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm still working on my my pillars of Stoic Futurism. So that's in process. It'll be kind of up in the next few months. But my starting framework that I use on my newsletter is called the Cognitive Firewall, which is a cool name. Basically, it's this principle of like trying to put everything through a bit of a filter, like you're a person who needs some kind of antivirus or some kind of firewall protection, like a computer. And just kind of understanding, again, what can be influenced, what can't be influenced, and just kind of processing everything that happens around you, everything that gets hurled at you in that particular way. So that's the framework I've kind of put out there right now, which is really good. And so I'm working on some others. But ultimately, it's around understanding what's on the table, what's not on the table, and what your prioritization needs to be. And so a lot of what I'm working on now is helping people to understand not simply what they can affect, but what they don't need to affect, like what they should be stopping doing, what they can automate, and what really needs to be their priority for life going forward in work. What creates the most value, what purpose they really have, what skills they really have. I mentioned to you guys previously that I've kind of just finished my Masters of Business Administration, and that was quite formative in getting me on this track of trying to understand, well, what do I need to do next? What's my future career hold? And so a lot of this, apart from in fatherhood, was born in the agony of trying to think what next for me in my career. What are my primary skills? What's my purpose here that I'm supposed to be fulfilling? And then through processing that, really understanding the importance of frameworks and the importance of trying to process things with the objective of clarity. So that's if I'm to say to anyone, one thing that they need is clarity, because the entire world is arrayed against them. The internet, TikTok is arrayed against them. Doom scrolling, all that stuff is arrayed against them to try and take their focus away from things, or just to bombard them with stuff to buy or for their attention. We're in an attention-based economy, and so the big takeaway for any leader or any person really is that their attention is valuable, and they shouldn't be giving it away easily. It's something that needs to be focused on something. Yes, we're to have an open mind about things, but once we find something, we need to close that mind on that thing, right? To really kind of get the most out of life. Like the biggest tragedy in life is a person who kind of goes with the flow, kind of, you know, has a boring job, and then wakes up somewhere in their late life and realizes that they've just been wasting it on fruitless rubbish they didn't have to do.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Structure is paramount. And I think kind of goes back in the conversation we've been having today around, you know, finding your way through Stoicism, through the challenges. I think that's one of the benefits of youth is you have the time to figure it out, but do we always use it wisely? And I think that's probably the worst things to do than to get a whole bunch of degrees, Peter. So I think you're doing quite well in that space. But I wanted to just use this as a segue to sort of jump forward a little bit. And I wanted to get your take with your experience and your interests. What does the world of tomorrow look like, according to Peter? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's already been exposed, and the penny hasn't dropped yet, but it's all. I think it's slowly becoming very apparent that the work is changing. As I said, it's a new industrial revolution. So the world of tomorrow, I'm quite optimistic. I see the doom. I see the doom and gloom on LinkedIn and newspapers. It might be true, but again, my Stoic principles tell me that worrying about it's not going to do anything. Rather, I need to embrace whatever I can embrace that is the good in these things, and move forward. And so, what's the world of tomorrow? Marcus Aurelius says it really well. He says, waste no time arguing what a good leader should be a good leader. So the world of tomorrow is, he's good. He wrote it to himself. That's a Dear Diary moment, right? So he's telling himself to be a good leader, which makes it more powerful in my book. He's not preaching to the masses. And this is the most powerful man in the world at the time, right? The Roman emperor. And he's writing to himself, stop debating with yourself or other people what a good leader should be. Go be a good leader. So that's powerful. So I think that's hopefully the future of tomorrow, particularly with AI and all that stuff, is we have the opportunity to free up so much of who we are to, yes, increase productivity and efficiency and all that kind of stuff. But we have the opportunity to change work, to move from a toil-based economy where people talk about stuff like work-life balance, which sounds good, right? Work-life balance, that sounds great. But what you're actually doing is you're splitting your personality. You got your home life and you got your work life, and you don't like the work life, and there's this weird kind of self-induced slavery in your mind in how you go about your life. Whereas I prefer integration. I prefer this idea that you should align your work with your life and your life with your work. So your work is an extension of that. Your life is an extension of what you enjoy doing. And if you don't like your job, go get a better job. Which is easier said than done. I get that, but ultimately we are responsible for the trajectory of our lives, the direction of our lives, and that's one of the few things you can control. And so if you're in a job, make it a better job. You've got the tools now. Even if the tools are not traditional tools anymore, right? We're talking about stuff that changes how you work now, as opposed to just an IT upgrade, right? It's not like that anymore. A lot of organizations are completely misplacing how they deal with this stuff. They're just like, oh, IT, get that chat GPT, yeah, get that Copilot or that chat GPT subscription, right? And then they roll it out, and then they go, oh, no one's using it properly, or they're misusing it, or whatever the problem is, or nothing's getting more efficient. It's because it's not about tools anymore. It's about work systems. They all have to change. You can't just give ChatGPT. I'm having one of those days.
we'll call it GP.
Yeah, ChatGPT to a staff member whose job it is to push buttons and expect them to magically become efficient. It's not how it works. We need to rewire workplaces around this new technology. And we have to do it really wisely, because we've seen the issues that can happen, such as that Deloitte report that was all AI fabricated, right? But yeah, so if I was saying to people, yeah, go be a good leader, stop chasing tools, chase problems you want to fix, stop confusing activity with progress, because that's the big bane of our existence in workplaces, is busy work, just doing stuff, looking busy, not actually creating value, lasting value.
Yeah.
And then ultimately act with really clear intent. You want your actions and your words to be meaningful, to do something. Don't just do things for the sake of doing things, but be a person of value creation, right? So whenever you're in a room, you're just helping the room. You're lighting up the room. Don't contribute to meaningless meetings. Right? Make them meaningful meetings, or just question why the meeting's happening in the first place, right? Be an agent for change. I'm not saying go be a jerk to your boss or anything like that, but do what you can within your sphere and walk that walk with integrity.
That's beautifully said, Peter. It was a tricky question, but I think you answered it really well. I think when I reflect on the world of tomorrow, there's a saying: the world of yesterday was a different planet. I think if you go back 100 years or 200 years and you ask the people, what do you think the world of tomorrow will look like? There's no way they would have a real shot to be able to guess about the kinds of changes and innovation that will happen. In many ways, through this change, I compare it to the Industrial Revolution, because the Industrial Revolution changed everything, and it brought people into the cities, and it fast-tracked our food production. The information revolution, which is what we are in the midst of at the moment, is almost putting that in reverse. People are starting to move away from the cities, and they're living and acting more locally, getting to know their next door neighbors, their butchers, their bakers, their candle steel makers. And I think about the identity shift that people today are in the process of I guess, experiencing. We've gone from seeing our parents live out the last years of the Industrial Revolution before 1998 and the internet hit our shores, through to I guess where we are now, and how work from home has changed the situation. How, as you say, we're no longer really not that we ever should have just been busy, but we're less and less comfortable just doing meaningless work. We're seeing the opportunities that exist out there, and one of the reasons why we're having this conversation now, because there's a lot of world out there that's opened up to us. How do you see, I guess, human potential or human skill sets changing and growing over the coming decades?
Well, again, I'm an optimist. I could be a bit of a doom and gloomer and say that everyone's going to lose their jobs and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that'll actually happen.
But there might be new jobs.
Yeah. Exactly. And we've got precedent for that in history. All the scribes were really upset about the printing press, because all of a sudden some commoner could have a book printed. It didn't take months and months and months of painstaking copying, right? Now that's not a one-for-one comparison, because this technology is even more revolutionary than the printing press, I'd say. But it's the world is really going to change. I think a lot can be automated, a lot can be outsourced, And I think where I'm optimistic about the change that I can help bring is to ensure that a lot of that outsourcing is not outsourcing judgment, it's not outsourcing discernment, the ability to choose right and wrong, yes or no. It's really, yeah, that's the ultimate kind of trajectory I want the world to be headed in, is that you have all these tools or these systems integrated into your life, augmenting your life, and they're designed to help you, but you are in control. You are not being governed by them, but you are governing them. That's my optimistic trajectory, but it's not going to happen if we don't fundamentally change the way we're doing things individually and corporately. And so that's the tricky bit where I'm trying, within my very narrow sphere of influence, to encourage people in whatever position they're in to make a bit of a difference, make a bit of a change, and help, I think, their leaders to get over the trendy fashionableness of technology. Like, oh, we need to get onto this AI thing, and then you ask them why, and they say, oh, because these other people are doing that as well. So there's this weird kind of lemming effect that's been going on, where leaders do not understand this technology. They're kind of just reading about the hype, and they just want to implement that kind of stuff in their organization, and then wondering why there's no efficiency gains when the problem is structural. It's a structural problem with the organization, the reason that they're not able to leverage it and automate processes. And that just makes people scared, because they're putting out all this hype, and all these organizations are getting on this bandwagon, but no one knows what the heck they're doing. And so when there isn't clarity from leadership in society or in businesses, people just are left to assume for themselves what the answer is. And the answer is never a good one when they're assuming for themselves. If a person's sitting there, a button pusher, and they're being told that their job's going to be gone, then they're going to assume that their job's going to be gone, right? That's all they get left to assume. If you're not giving them clarity on exactly what these changes will mean for them, and retrain them and getting them on board and all that, then that's going to be the output. Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Oh no, you go.
I think that's the curse, isn't it? We've created a system, and there is quite a number of, as put it, button pushers out there, and then technology like this comes out, which completely revolutionizes the way we do things.
Yeah.
But coming back to, I guess, AI, robotics potentially, and human potential, would you agree that there are some things machines can do that humans can't, vice versa? Or is it only a matter of time before humans can create and dream as well as humans can?
Well, you're getting into sci-fi now, which I dig. I love sci-fi. But yeah, it's how I guess we think about the future. That's good. AI is really great at generating options. It's really bad at being accountable. As you probably had a conversation with it before, to get something wrong, there's no ownership.
Yeah.
It just says what it wants you to hear to please you, and that might change with some future guardrails and complexity. But fundamentally, if you want to be in charge of your own life, you've got to be in the driver's seat. And so, yeah, I found it an amazing tool during my MBA journey to ideate possible futures, for instance. So we used scenario planning, for instance, as a tool. And AI was just so good at predicting what could happen in the next 10 years for the consulting industry, for instance. It just had so many great ideas. So instead of us spending hours and hours behind a whiteboard trying to think up these things ourselves, it was just able to do that, which is fantastic. And so it's really, really good at kind of executing on tasks. But if you're not clear about what you're executing on, you get AI slop. And I don't care whether that's a Gen AI thing or an automation thing, but inputs like garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
So that's the future is humans in the driver's seat. Hopefully, most humans in the driver's seat, those who are prepared to remain in the driver's seat, right? And yeah, judgment ultimately equals values and context for the AI. It's dumb. You treat it like a dumb research assistant that doesn't really know much, like almost a personal assistant that doesn't know anything. And if you give it what you need, it can just robotically go out and do that stuff, and it's fantastic. And hopefully, it gets us to a Jetsons future, which I think everyone's been wondering about for the last 20 years. When will we have a personal robot? When will I have a flying car, right? But we're getting to the point where if we're able to leverage computing power to execute, not to do judgment, then we're at the point where we can scale these kind of endeavors and research capabilities. You can create, like I remember in CAD software, my wife's an engineering student, and she used to take ages doing computer-aided design software, creating like 3D printing models and things like that. AI can do it in seconds now. You can just ask it to do something and it'll just create it, and then maybe do a few tweaks to the design, but you're good. And that's going to fundamentally change a whole bunch of creative and design industries for the better. Imagine a graphic designer that can do 10 times the output. Still leveraging great skills of judgment and creative direction, but using these tools and systems to just increase their output, perhaps tenfold. It's amazing, amazing future that we've got here, and it's so good. But we just have to retain agency. That's the big fundamental thing. Don't get carried away with what the thing can do for you. Like I had so many classmates in my MBA journey who just discovered AI, and all of a sudden they're just submitting slop for their assignments. And there's nothing more frustrating in a group assignment than your classmate who doesn't do any work and just puts in a bad prompt and then submits slop. And these are very intelligent people. This is an executive MBA program, so the cream of the crop. But they've just discovered that they can get away with so much, and ultimately sacrifice their own agency in doing so. Epictetus is another great Stoic. In contrast to Marcus Aurelius, he was a slave, which I think is brilliant, that you've got a slave and a Roman emperor, the two ends of society. And he said, a slave said, no one is free who is not master of themselves. A slave said that. So even though he was a slave at this point, when he said this, he was an ex-slave, but he has a lot to say and understand about slavery. So that's the crux of everything, is to be the master of yourself, even if you're a slave.
And I think what you said as well is using it as a personal assistant. It's a great travel agent or a therapist, or it can get all your research done, but obviously we need to go ahead and check everything and make sure it's giving us the information we actually need and ultimately making that decision. And is that what you do, like in your business? Are you guiding other businesses or organizing other businesses into using this tools in this way?
I work less around the actual implementation of the tools, and it's more around the how do we transform the organization, because you can't just you can't take an old terrible car engine and then put a brand new spanking car around it. It's probably supposed to be the opposite, right? You're supposed to put the new engine in the old car, right? But that's you need to. Workplaces need to fundamentally change on this. So a lot of what I write about is around how to help individuals, but also how to help organizations around the structural changes that need to take place to actually use this technology to yield the results that they want. It's the longer we leave it as a society, the more painful it'll get, because it's progressing so fast that no one can keep up with all the enhancements in this AI race. And it is an AI bubble. Don't get me wrong, there is an AI bubble, but regardless, the technology's here. Even if the bubble bursts, the technology will still remain in some form. And it's similar to the internet, where the .com bubble kind of blew up as well. So Yeah, it's like, you know, a lot of what I do is you know, consulting around transformation and strategy, because if when you're using this old model, a lot of strategy becomes this kind of performative theater where it's like, oh, we're going to be AI powered, and we're going to be, you know, AI enabled, and we're going to be so efficient and amazing, and then it doesn't translate. And so leaders blame their organization for these things, and when in reality it's because they need to redo their entire structure to actually use this technology wisely. They can't just be like, hey, IT, hire an AI guy to, you know, make a chatbot that can be integrated into our systems, and that'll magically make us 50% more efficient. It's not going to happen, and they're all finding that out slowly. Yeah.
And that's
there'll be organizations that do get competitive advantage from actually working this out properly. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're the sort of organizations that might approach someone like you. It can be any organization, or you said individual, that can approach someone like you to help integrate all of that. And
I work with a lot of startups, because startups don't have a structure.
Yeah.
They're easy to mold, and they're open to change, because they're on a razor's edge all the time with funding and product enhancements and things like that. So yeah, they're really great to talk to around how to structure themselves going forward, so that they're in the best possible position. So I work with a lot of them because they're really open to it.
A little bit like kids, you're working with young minds and open hearts.
Yeah.
That's right. I was going to actually ask you, Peter, what are, in traditional organizations, what are some of the, I guess, key challenges you're coming up against when describing these kinds of models and change?
Yeah. So in contrast to startups, I work at a university in Australia, and apart from maybe government work, I don't think there's more monolithic structures than universities, just because they've been around for sometimes hundreds of years. You know, similar to governments, where, you know, there's unionization. So there's a lot of structure that is anti-change, and so a lot of leaders just either don't approach change at all because it's too hard, or
why is that, Peter? Sorry, why is that anti-change culture in place?
Oh, well, when you have the option to not change, most people choose not to, because it's painful, right? It's threatening. People kind of tend to think, if you're trying to change me, there's an idea that what I'm doing is not sufficient, and I'd rather. For a lot of people, I don't fully understand it myself. For a lot of people, they get attached to pushing buttons. It's a habit wiring, probably an atomic habit, I'd say, which is what James Clear would say, is that if you spend enough months, I'd say less than a month, but if you spend years even pushing buttons, doing a certain thing, and that's become your identity, that you're the person who pushes the button, then someone comes in and says, you shouldn't be pushing buttons anymore. This is a waste of your time. We'd rather get you in front of a whiteboard, or we'd rather get you out there doing some real value creation stuff.
You hang on to those buttons.
Oh, they want the buttons. It's addictive when you kind of attach an activity to your identity. Sorry?
Absolutely, and you nailed it there. That's what I was fishing for. The identity shift is really is crucial in this, I guess, day and age, because everything is shifting, and I think that's probably coming back again full circle to Stoicism and perceived dangers and problems versus real ones, like the price of petrol, for example, is something people experience quite a lot of. And I think this is where Stoicism really, and these sorts of tools really help to aid in this transition, because quite often what we are worried about is as we've just mentioned, not being able to push those buttons and have to retrain, or have to start thinking about a different way of living our lives. And going back to traditional organizations, it's not surprising, but obviously it's a bit of a worry that there is that much resistance in those organizations to change. I guess you could almost say this is the rise and fall of various industries and companies if they're unwilling to change.
Yeah, 100%. Education's going to be hugely disrupted in the coming decade or so. And it's like through talking to a lot of startups, this has really clarified my thinking. Because a lot of startups are all about education, right? Particularly education technology. And what we're seeing is a shift in this industry, and it's happening to every industry in varying extents, is we're moving from a teaching students content, like you just download content onto the student, right, through books or lectures or whatever, to seeing that industry don't care about that stuff. that they're not necessarily equipping students to do the job, right? Just giving someone a bunch of content to regurgitate doesn't help them to be an accountant, for instance.
We have
But
AI
what
for
does
that.
help, yeah, we have AI for that. That stuff's automatable, right? But what does help them is education around context. It's understanding all the different variables, all the different frameworks and processes that actually take place in that work environment. And so the student can get an appreciation using these tools in an education environment to know what they can outsource to AI and what they can't. What needs to be fundamental to how they're built versus what's fundamental to how these tools and platforms are to be used. That's not taking place yet. Like, there's isolated pockets of academics who are trying to innovate, but it's not really happening system-wide, and a lot of that's just because of lag. That they haven't been forced to do this yet, but it's going to be inevitable.
Yeah.
Eventually. It's every sector, every industry to varying extents is going to have to do this. It'll be very easy on some of them and very hard on others. Knowledge work in particular.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is again, you know, the industrial revolution made everyone into a piece in the pipeline, because obviously conveyor belts and things like that. And so you learned a skill, you learned a trade, and that was your bit in that process, in that model. But with the information age, I guess what we are learning to do is to be thinkers, problem solvers. Is this something that AI could eventually, I guess, do better than humanity?
Problem solving? Yes and no. So it can only solve problems that are properly articulated. That's one of the things that I would say is that my big learnings in a work life that's been very defined by who has all the right answers. That's what a lot of people think leaders are, is people have all the right answers. But in reality, a lot of it's just about the best questions, who can ask the best questions. And that's effectively prompting, right? Is asking really, really great questions and giving all the right context and the desired outputs and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think yeah, that's kind of, what was the question again? Kind of yeah.
Will AI be more human than humanity, I guess, is what I'm wondering. You know, with the progress of AI and just how it has kind of exploded. And I think you're right, you know, it is a bubble, and the bubble will pop. So we could just be hyperventilating here over a fancy calculator. But at the end of the day, there is also the potential of AI. How much room will it leave for us to I guess, what will humanity be contributing to if AI reaches its full potential?
I'm kind of weird in the sense that I don't actually think AGI is going to be a thing, artificial general intelligence, which is the belief that you'll get a Skynet type AI at some point that basically is, you know, like Skynet or Jarvis or whatever it is, a general intelligence that's able to do everything that a human can, self-aware, all that sort of stuff. I don't see any evidence that the technology we have can do that or will ever do that. Machine learning is a thing, but I can't see inserting more complexity into the models will somehow create sentience. What you'll get is some pretty accurate mimicry. So you'll get, personal robots and things like that that will act human, but they are still fundamentally programmed, and they're doing things that they're programmed to do, and they're learning things that they learn to program. They will not, I think, reach our the unique attributes of humans. They won't possess those. They will be able to do a lot of the tasks that we would have them do, but they won't be able to, as you say, dream in the way we dream. They won't have the weird kind of X factor we have around curiosity and creativity, and the ability to judge and discern morality, right from wrong, things like that. So there's so many unique facets of humanity that I don't think AI can ever fully possess. It can mimic them, but we will always have some unique value in this equation. And so we've just got to make sure that we make the right choices about what gets given to AI and what doesn't. I do think the AGI thing is part of the reason for the AI bubble, is that they've oversold a future that they can't necessarily deliver on. But I'm strange in that sense. I think everyone else is fairly confident that they'll reach that state at some point.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, it doesn't have a soul. AI does not have a soul, and it doesn't have consciousness.
Agreed.
It mimics it really well, and it comes directed from us, at least so far. Anyway, hopefully, it doesn't take over, and
Yeah, it's fundamentally it's a computer program. If you do get a Skynet type scenario, it's because you've built it to do a task that is really dangerous.
Yeah.
And it kind of starts hallucinating, or it just it does makes decisions that you've badly programmed it to do. I can't see it actually being like a human inside the computer. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and although I have read articles about like how they start communicating with one another and therefore taking over, but that's probably
that's because you've programmed them to go seek information, to exchange information, and they're trying to machine learn collectively. And if you've actually looked into what they've actually been saying and exchanging, it's all a bunch of drivel. Yes, with added complexity, the information exchange could be better, but it's nothing approaching sentience.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that.
Yeah.
100%,
Look, thank you, Peter. This is a huge topic, and I think we can delve into it definitely further, and changing every single day. It's going from AI to robotics to automation, and then God knows where next. But we'd like to thank you really for jumping online and having a chat to us. If people want to reach out to you and learn more about Stoicism and Futurism and in organizational change, what's the best way to do that?
That's a good question. So you can just go to my website, peterashbysmith.com, or my Substacks, peterashbysmith.substack.com, or just look me up on LinkedIn. Always happy to have more connections.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
We can list it all down below as well.
We'll list it all down below. Again, thank you, Peter, for jumping online and sharing your insights. Like I said, there's a lot here to be covered, and we love your unique take on Stoicism together with AI and Futurism, because I think you're quite right. We need a little bit of that common sense and clarity moving into a very new space.
Great philosophy.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Go on.
Of course, please.
Yeah, great. One of my favorite quotes from Marcus Aurelius, again, Roman emperor, is the impediment to action advances action. And so one huge thing I've learned amidst all the chaos of the changes of the last 5-6 years is that the obstacles that are in your way are often opportunities in disguise. And so my encouragement to your listeners, your viewers, is to see what the silver lining is on a particular event. What's their opportunity in these things? What judgment can they make on their circumstances to steer that and navigate in the right direction they want to be? That's ultimately what I'd like to say, is that your advantage isn't in using AI, it's in knowing not what to use it for. What are you going to do as a human? Yeah.
I love that.
That's great.
We'll use that as the tag for the post to advertise it. It's very on point, and I think
It's great life advice too.
Absolutely, it's great life
Yeah.
advice, because I think through that filter we can definitely change our perception of what goes on in and out on a daily basis, and hopefully that trip into work is a little less stressful.
Yeah, that's the brilliance of Stoicism for me, and why, like, preparing it with a right appraisal of the future, or a positive outlook on the future, is the universality of it all. Like, I can say this stuff to my kids, I can say this stuff to my boss. It really kind of envelopes all of my life, and so how I go about my future. And so, like, a lot of philosophies are very niche, and they're kind of only really applicable in certain circumstances. But I haven't really found anything in Stoicism that isn't useful in some respect. So that's why I'm doing it, because it's the right tool for the job.
Yeah, applicable to, like you said, all areas of life.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, thank you, Peter, and thank you for sharing the wise words. And we look forward to the next chat.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
1, 2.